Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football late Sunday night. Billy Napier, the Florida Gators, land what I would say is a fascinating commitment out of the transfer portal and former UAB defensive back Adrian Maddox. And the reason I use the word fascinating is this kid's a defensive chess piece in the back end. I mean, you start diving into Adrian Maddox, he plays all over the place for UAB in 2024, 134 snaps as a box safety, another 200 as a nickel corner. That's probably where he's most comfortable playing. Another 50 snaps as a free safety. You can do a lot of different things with Adrian Maddox, and anytime you get a chance to add a veteran, versatile, solid football player to your roster, you don't want to pass up on that opportunity. If I were to sell the Florida Gator fans on what Adrian Maddox brings to Florida and how good of a football player this is, look, you go head to head against the Georgia Bulldogs for this kid. And look, Georgia's not taking anybody in the transfer portal. You know, they are very good in the back end. They recruit that position very well out of the high school ranks. If Georgia wanted to add him, now I think that's another indicator that he's a very good football player. Now, I think you get three key things with Adrian Maddox. I think number one, versatility. This is a guy that can slot in at multiple different positions in the back end of this defense. I think number two, experience. This guy that's played over 1,400 snaps during his college football career. And it's kind of you kind of forget that this Florida secondary, although guys like Jordan Castell and Bryce Thornton played a lot as freshmen, it's still kind of a young room. And adding a guy that has played as much as Adrian Maddox certainly makes sense. And I think lastly, and most importantly, competitive depth. You know, I think Billy Napier and this Florida Gator staff are continuing to look for ways to build the depth within this roster. And what I mean by that is not only if a guy goes down, do you have another good player that's ready to go, but I think from a competitive standpoint in practice, look, if you want to start for Florida on this defense, specifically in the back end, you damn well better be practicing well, and you damn well better be a good football player. And you kind of add a guy like Adrian Maddox, I think it kind of elevates the competition in that defensive backfield heading into 2025. And so I don't know if Adrian Maddox is a day one starter for Florida, but this is an addition that I think makes a lot of sense for a couple of different reasons. Now, I want to get into Adrian Maddox and what he brings as a football player to this Florida Gators defense. Now, before we get into it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. And many of y'all know it. It's been a blast talking this team. Really the last 2 months, right? The close of the 2024 season, and then how they finished on the recruiting trail in the 2025 class, and then what they've done in the portal. It's been a blast. You all have been showing a ton of love to the boys. Can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into this one. And let's start with the versatility part of this conversation. I think a really good example of some versatility that Florida brought in last year was a guy like Triquez Bridges. Could play multiple different positions for Florida. You know, started out the season not even playing that much and then emerged as, hey, kind of had to throw him in at the boundary cornerback spot. Ended up playing really good football. You know, Adrian Maddox, if something were to happen to Bryce Thornton and Jordan Castell or a guy like Sharif Denson, Adrian Maddox in that situation might be the next one up. So in terms of versatility, providing that depth in the secondary, I think it makes a lot of sense. You know, I think secondly, a guy that's played a lot of football, has seen a lot of football. Again, you look at the defensive back room and say it's a talented group, but they've been playing a lot. So it's not necessarily an inexperienced defensive backfield, but it's a relatively young one. I mean, a lot of the guys who are going to be starting for Florida in 2025 are juniors, you know, third-year college football players. Adrian Maddox has played a lot of football. I think that certainly helps Florida in an experienced department. And then again, finally, competitive depth. And you look at where I think Adrian Maddox personally is going to slot in one, at 6'3", 200 pounds. That is a very nice frame. And it's a frame that stands out when you turn on UAB. Like, it's like, all right, who's that number 7 cat? Because he looks like a power 4 caliber guy. You probably want him by the line of scrimmage. So when he's playing that safety role, he's probably going to be a little bit more of a box safety that's supporting the run. But he plays a lot of nickel, and I think that's where he's most comfortable with. And he's got some nice movement skills for that length. Do I think he comes in and starts over a guy like Sharif Denson? I don't think so. And that probably has a lot to do with what I think about Sharif Denson. I think that kid's a baller. But I do think that Aaron Gates, whether it's taken him a while to get back on the field. I believe he got banged up. Maybe that's kind of the mode where you want to bring him in. But I also think he can be a very quality safety as well that can do a lot of things. And I think he can operate in man coverage, which is important. In a Florida Gators defense that might want to bring some different blitz packages, when you want to send backers on blitzes, you're probably going to man coverage in the back end. Having safeties who can hold up in man coverage when called upon, that certainly matters as well. And you start looking at the Florida Gators secondary, I think it was pretty clear they wanted to add at least one piece. They went after a guy like Zachariah Poyser. He goes to Miami. I don't think Adrian Maddox is quite the Zachariah Poyser, but he's a very similar kind of football player that can do a lot of different things. And so you get that competitive depth, you get that versatility, you get that experience. I mean, I think you're checking three things off the box, as well as just adding a dang good football player to this Florida Gators roster. I'm curious to see where he slots in. But at the very least, I think what I'm most excited for is, kind of how you sat right now. Jordan Costello, Bryce Thornton, and Sharif Denson were probably going to be bona fide returning starters. And I don't think that's changed. But it's like, what's the impact that it has on guys like Jordan Costello, Bryce Thornton, and Sharif Denson? Like, now you got a guy in Adrian Maddox that if you do not take the steps going into 2025, Adrian Maddox is going to be nipping at them heels. That matters. I mean, I think this is going to be an addition that you get a good football player, a versatile football player. You're adding depth to your football team, but you're also probably making those three players a little bit better as well, which I think matters. Florida did not have to do a lot of work in the transfer portal. We've been saying it all along that a lot of their efforts were on retaining players, keeping players out of the NFL draft, which, look, in the era of NIL, giving Caleb Banks a strong financial incentive to come back to Florida, that matters. If you let Caleb Banks walk, you're not finding a better interior defensive lineman. And I think the same thing goes for guys like Austin Barber and Jake Slaughter as well on the offensive line. Florida did a very nice job keeping this roster intact. The players that they liked and they did not want to lose did not hit the transfer portal, did not go to the NFL draft. A lot of programs who are bringing in 20 plus players, they can't say the same. Yeah, you're bringing in some new players that are flashy and fun to talk about and good football players. But when you bring in that many guys and you kind of neglect the good players on your roster, some good players on your roster are going to leave. No, I think Florida focused on keeping just keeping the good thing rolling. You look at this team in the back half of 2025, you just wanted to, or 2024, I should say, you just wanted to translate that and put it in time machine 2025. They've done that in a really effective manner. Good good depth, good versatility. This one makes a lot of sense. Not sure if he's a day one starter, but I think he makes this football team better. And that's the name of the game in the transfer portal. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.